Okay. I'm done. Whew. Yeah. So that went um for an hour. But it's exciting. Actually, the time that I on my computer using Toggle, that's the app I like to use to track my studying when I study on my computer, just because I'm curious about how long I study. And also I'm sure I mentioned this previously, but I will probably mention it more times. Because I'm curious how long I've studied, and also because I like to give myself a little pat on the back at the end of the week, at the end of the month, and just say, "Oh my gosh, look at all that studying you did, Vicky." Pat, pat. So, how did it go? Well, how did it go for you? Did you do some grammar studying? Did you do some practice afterwards? Not just studying? For me, it went really well. I'm really excited that it went well. I found a video that was about 5 minutes long. There were so many videos that were like 20 minutes, and no diss to people who want to watch a 20-minute video on subjunctive. Have at it. That was not me today. Maybe on another day. I don't know. That's a lot. Like subjunctive is brain melting for me. So I was actually just doing basic subjunctive stuff today. I was like, let's just review the basics. Let's go over it. Let's see what we remember. Because, fun fact, I don't know if this is actually a fact, but I just declared it one. There is something that we miss, which is not reviewing the basics. That we sometimes we focus so much on, I want to advance, but we don't go back to review those basics that we, in theory, would use like on a daily basis. So, like with English, if you are forgetting simple things with the present and simple things with the past, maybe it's time to go back and review those instead of focusing on, oh, what could I say in the passive? What could I do in the third conditional, or whatever thing you're focused on that seems just like super complicated to you and you want to master it. But are you mastering those basic things that are coming up regularly in conversations and that may be throwing you for a curveball, as in maybe making conversations a little more difficult for you because you are not giving time to those basic things. And so I say that because that's what I was doing today. I was reviewing basics, and I was really happy because I was like, oh yeah, I feel like I know this. I feel like this makes sense. Now I'm going to put it into practice. So I took some notes as I was watching the video, and what I decided to do as my writing, so I'll give that to you as an idea, is, oh, I should mention that I also had to stop for a break. I was going to grab my cat, but she laid down, so she's more difficult to get now. But so I had to pause to go feed the cats because I was like, oh my gosh, it's after 6. Okay. So I ran to go feed them. And because one was just, oh, he was being scandalous in the hall with his meows. Looking at you, Gunther. And yeah, so what I did, because I stopped my timer and then I was like, I don't need to stop my timer. I do need to pay attention to the cats when they're eating because one will eat the other's food if I'm not there. But why couldn't I continue practicing? I'd already watched the video. I was just on the practice portion. So I took my little notebook with me because I found my Spanish notebook, and and realized that I have multiple French notebooks. So maybe I don't need any more notebooks for languages. How many notebooks do you have in your world? That's what I would like to know. So, sorry, Gunther just jumped on the table and it scared me. Here's your task, if you choose to accept it. I wrote a letter to my sister, and I wrote my instructions in Spanish, which I'm pretty proud of myself for too. Gosh, I have so many compliments. I'm gonna have to rewatch this video afterwards so that I can write down all the little compliments I gave myself so I can put them in my little language jar of compliments that I have somewhere. And so here's what I wrote. I'm going to translate it as we go. So write a text message, an email, or a letter. I went with a letter and I said to your sister, but obviously not everybody's going to have a sister and not everybody's going to want to write a letter to their sister. So I said to your sister or another person. So no specifics. You can choose anybody in the world that you want to write a letter to, or text message, or DM, or email, or whatever. Just write something. It can be to yourself. And use one of the example sentences, one of the example grammar sentences that you have learned. So, for example, in the Spanish video, the woman, Elena, I think her name was, and I think this is the first time I came across Elena as well. So thank you, Elena, for your help today. And I signed up to her newsletter because I was so excited that I had learned some stuff from her. So if you had a lovely time with your language practice today and you want English tips and advice, you can subscribe to my newsletter for more tips and tricks. But what Elena used in her video was that she put some examples to do with the weather, work, and sports. So I could choose one of those topics and make my cart because the word is carta, letter in Spanish. So bad translation, Vicky. So I could choose one or all of those topics to include in my letter as as my theme for my letter. And that's what I did. I started off talking about like I was hoping that she didn't have a lot of work today. And then I went into what did it go into? Oh, about what time of day it is here in Spain. And then I talked about food instead of sports. I used the same example structure from the sports and just kind of played around with the topic to still get the same practice from it. And then something else that I did was, because I don't have somebody who is correcting me, I could share this with my husband later if I wanted to. And if I felt that he would be like super excited to correct it for me, which I don't think he would be. But that's why sometimes learning with our partners is not always the ticket. And that's okay. That's not their job in a relationship to teach you a language. So I'm totally fine with that. But I decided to put it into Google Translate. And so I just put some of the sentences in and I put what I written in Spanish. And then I looked at what it came up with in English. And I was like, okay, that's what I was going for. But then this is, I think, the essential element of it is I flipped it. So I used that. I didn't change anything. I just pressed the two arrows, had it flip to see if it still used the same grammar that I had used originally, or if it changed anything. And in one of the sentences, it did actually change it from the subjunctive to the indicative. And so I was like, oh, guess I didn't need the subjunctive in that one. Rats. But that one was not something that had been covered in today's. That was me just kind of like going off on my own. So, is there still more stuff I need to practice? Of course, there's more stuff I need to practice. Do I feel more confident about this, let's say, basic level of the subjunctive? Like the, like as if you were doing just the initial stages of past simple with regular verbs, then yes, I feel good about that. And I feel like I remember the conjugations and remember the rules for it, and that I was able to put it into practice. So in a future practice, I will use like a more complex video to do some more in-depth stuff with the subjunctive in Spanish. And for the rest of this week, I'm just going to challenge myself to, what will I on the spot challenge myself to do? I'm going to, let me see where. So it had some different uses for subjunctive. I'm going to I have like a little sticky note somewhere. So I'm going to write them on a little sticky note and put them by the door because that's a place where I'll see them a lot. And so then I'll put at least 3 on the door and just basically force myself to use those with my husband this week. And that will be my way that I continue practicing the subjunctive that I was reviewing today, because I don't want to get stuck in learning. I want to take action, right? So tell me, what is something that you can do to implement what you've practiced today throughout the rest of the week? And that's it from moi. I hope that you have found some useful tidbits, and that you enjoy me filling the time while I figure out how to end this live stream. Just being real. Okay, so go forth, do some more studying if that's on your agenda. Otherwise, I will see you on another day. Practice some more languages. Ciao.